Ms. Miller, you've been present in the courtroom for all the testimony of all the witnesses, correct?
Correct.
You've been in the courtroom for each of the exhibits that's been presented to the court, and you've heard everything that we had to say about all those exhibits, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, you've kind of gone through each one of these exhibits and kind of told us about them, and I'd like to talk to you about a couple of them.
Judge, I just placed an objection in the form of the question. She didn't go through any of those exhibits.
It's fine. You can object to that. Okay. Is there, first of all, let me just ask you, are any of these exhibits incorrect?
No, they are not.
Okay, including the emails?
The emails were wrote.
Okay. And they were exactly as written?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And I believe you testified about Jerry calling you up and giving you John O'Connor's name and phone number. Is that correct?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and that's People's Exhibit number 10. Now, is this your handwriting?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the hotel bills that we saw. From the Holiday Inn Express, where there was a reservation that was called in on the day of the murder and canceled under Jerry Cassidy. You're admitting to that?
No, I'm not.
You're not admitting to that?
I believe you said November 3rd it was called and
No.
canceled.
Okay. Did you make this phone call on November 3rd?
No, I did not.
Okay. What about on October 3rd? Did you call Travelodge?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you said you used a credit card?
At the Travelodge, no, I did not.
Okay. Where did you use the credit card?
At the Hampton Inn in Birch Run.
Okay. And you said that you had that flurry of calls to the Hampton Inn between the 3rd and the 8th. Is that correct?
Between the 3rd and the 6th. On the 8th, I called one time.
Well, let's find that. Pardon? See there. This is marked People's Exhibit number 67. Okay, and we have all the same phone number, 517-624-2500, identified as being to the Hampton Inn. You don't deny calling there and using your cell phone.
I do not deny that.
Okay, so now all these asterisks here are phone calls to the Hampton Inn.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and they begin on November 3rd,
Yes, they do.
and they end on November 8th.
Yes, they do.
Tell us why you called there on November 8th.
Because Jerry had left on late November 5th, early November 6th, it was right there, and my charge card wasn't going through.
Okay,
They had called the house, the Hampton Inn, had called my house and said I needed to come and pay the bill. I called on November 8th because I didn't want them calling back and Bruce answering the phone and the bill wasn't paid. So I called them back and they ended up getting it to go through on my charge card, and that's why I called on November 8th.
tell us what the name was on your charge card.
Sharee Tribby was on 2 of them and Sharee Miller was on 1 of them. So
How many charge cards did you use?
I have 3 charge cards.
Okay. Which one did you use at the Hampton Inn?
I do not know.
Okay, would it surprise you, or how would you like to respond if I were to tell you that they searched for credit card receipts under the name Sharee Tribby? Do you have another explanation as to why they would not have that
No,
information?
I do not.
Do you have a receipt?
No, I do not.
Okay. You said that Bruce takes his cell phone at night, correct?
On 3rd shift.
Okay. You're not contending that Bruce made these phone calls to Odessa, Missouri, are you?
No, I am not.
Okay, so you had the cell phone, didn't you?
Some of the time I had it, some of the time he had it.
Okay, why don't you tell us about that cell phone call you got at 2:17 p.m. on the day of the murder? Tell us who that was
At
from.
2:17 p.m.
2:17
I do not
p.m.
know.
Right here. Also right down here. Last billable call ever to that phone.
I do
you
not
said
know.
you had the phone in the afternoon.
Mhm.
Tell us who that was from.
I do not remember.
You don't remember?
No, I don't.
Where is that phone?
The cell phone I had left at the business that day, It was either on the desk or in the front room. I do not know where the cell phone is.
Okay. And what did you tell the phone company about where the cell phone was?
Around 2 weeks to a month after Bruce's death, I received the final bill on the cell phone. At this time, I called the cell phone company and told them that Bruce was deceased and how he was killed, and that I have not seen the phone since earlier that day.
So, let me get this straight here, and I'm looking at People's Exhibit 68C.
You want the easel?
No,
Okay.
actually, I'm clumsy with that. Right here, 6:16 p.m. You admit calling your cell phone, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And you just hang right up and call B&D Auto. Plus, you've just called B&D Auto. You know Bruce is there. Why would you be calling your cell phone?
I called the cell phone by accident.
Okay.
I let it ring. The message came on that nobody had picked up. It rings like 3 times. That's when I realized I called the cell phone. I immediately hung it up and called the yard.
So that it wouldn't be billable?
Well, because nobody picked it up.
Okay. And I guess you don't have any explanation for why there was an outgoing call from that cell phone at 6:47.
I have no idea.
And in fact, probably 1 minute before 6:46, you're calling B&D Auto and nobody's answering.
Yes,
Okay. And in fact, Bruce is probably dead by then, wouldn't you agree?
I have no idea.
You got a hold of him at 6:16, can't get a hold of him at 6:46.
I have no idea. I wasn't there.
Okay. Isn't it true that your cell phone connects to an answering machine?
Our voicemail was not set up. That's what it said. The voicemail was not connected. That's how I knew I had called the cell phone.
What about, you already admitted these emails, that you've written these emails and received these emails from Jerry, correct?
Correct.
And there are references in here to let it ring once. You call each other on the phone and then you meet on the computer. Did you do that quite frequently? It's in here more than once.
Sometimes we did that
So you had a little signal going.
Sometimes we did that so that we could meet online.
Okay, but you didn't use that little signal with the cell phone.
No, we did not.
Now, these emails too, you're talking about, let's talk about death. There's numerous references to death in here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Hoping Bruce doesn't wake up from a nap so that you can go on with your life. Hope his heart stops beating. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So in other words, you're telling Jerry you want him to die, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In fact, but when he writes back to you, and I'm looking at one on 9/26, he says, I know you want revenge for everything he's done, but there are more ways to hurt someone than physical pain. You know, because you're a living proof of that. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. So he's looking for another way out. He wants you to leave Bruce, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
But you keep on coming back to this death theme.
What page, Counsel?
I'm not there yet. Okay. Page 83. Did you write on October 22nd, I can't believe after all we talked about, you again bring up the reason I won't leave is because of money. You are so wrong, so very wrong. Jerry, okay, Jerry, you win. Are you happy? You win. I will leave here, and nothing will ever happen to him. He will move on or come after me. He will never suffer for my baby. You win. Are you happy now? I will sit in Kansas City worrying about going to the grocery store and have a bullet put in my head. I will sit in Kansas City knowing he is surviving while something I loved couldn't, didn't, and never had a chance. I will live in Kansas City and become a bitter woman knowing he is here and living happily with everything of mine. My money, yes. My home, yes. But most important, my soul. I will sit in Kansas City and become a rotten bitch knowing he is still breathing here. I will, okay. Are you happy? You have your way, but I cannot promise I will be the same woman. I cannot promise that the anger and hurt won't override anything you try to do. I cannot promise I won't blow sitting here in Kansas City, knowing what I know and losing what I have lost. But you win. Are you happy? Do you remember writing that email?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So it appears as though Jerry is advocating you leaving, and he's accusing you of, well, why the heck are you staying? Because you got financial security with your husband? And you're saying, I can't leave until he's dead. Do you deny that email?
I do not deny that email.
Okay. Next email, also on 10/22. Do you deny saying, don't you hear there's something more? Don't you hear the sadness and not being able to normally leave my so-called husband? I am so scared of leaving this way. I am so sorry my way is not working out. It would have saved me many fears and heartache, I am sure. Sure. That is why I'm so upset. And you tell, at the beginning of the letter you said, I cannot tell you my fears of leaving here your way, which is just peacefully, right? He just wants you to leave. He wants to live happily ever after with the white picket fence, right? He's kind of a, idealistic guy, and you're my angel and that kind of thing, right?
What's your question? I don't understand your question.
My question is, that's what Jerry wanted. He wanted you to just leave your husband and come out there and live happily ever after, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
But that's not the way you wanted it.
Is that a question?
No.
Is that a statement? I mean, I don't, Judge, I would just object if we're going to have editorials.
Well, we won't have editorializing.
Thank you.
Okay. Next email on 10/23. Did you say this? I did not change my mind on doing it your way. I'm simply saying I cannot do it in one day. I just wanted the man whom is supposed to love me to know what I am, but he wouldn't listen. You don't have to hear what is scaring the woman who you proclaim to love. So again, you're instilling in him this fear of leaving, correct? You need his help. Is that what you're portraying to him?
I wrote the email, yes.
Okay, why don't you tell the jury about the email on 10/27 where you say, with every day I am here, my spirits drop lower and lower. With every passing day, my hope fades. With every day, I am stuck in this world. A part of me is dying. And then you go on to say, I am to the point of going to Detroit, picking up a bum on the streets, and paying him a small fortune to do what I want. What are you going to pay that bum a small fortune to do?
At that time, I had told Jerry that I had been gang raped, and the bum was to take care of the people who had raped me.
What about an email on November 1st? He will never see what he does to me as a crime. He will never let it end. He will always be there until I, Sharee, take care of this. He will haunt me forever. I am alone in this. I will always be alone in this. I will never be able to trust anyone to help me in this. I love you, Jerry, and I will take care of your babies. I promise you that. I will take care of them while they are in me. Then you will take care of me. I promise you that. So, continue the path to recovery you are on. I am so proud of you for picking up your life. I'm so envious of you, Jerry. You are strong enough to do it, and I am not. I am not shit in this world. Did you write that?
Yes, I did.
So you admit that Jerry is getting his life back together. He's going to AA, he's getting the counseling, and he's getting his life back on track. But you keep on coming back to this despair that you're feeling, and you're trapped, and you're talking about fairy tales where death is her only answer. Do you agree that that's the way you communicated with him?
Not all the time, no.
Not all the time?
There was other emails.
Okay. Now, you also heard testimony from people, too, that you were telling people that you were breaking up with him at the end of October, or sometime in October.
I tried breaking up with Jerry Cassidy several times. I tried easily breaking up with him
Okay.
several times.
So what are these things about death? I mean, what does that have to do with breaking up? It sounds like you're pretty tight to be talking about the kind of things you're talking about here. The
I don't
emails don't
understand the
substantiate it.
question.
Judge, let me just object to the question again. It's editorial, it's not a
Okay,
question.
let's just do the
Well-
questions and,
Why don't the emails substantiate that you're pulling away from them?
Some of them do. It
Okay.
says in the emails,
So you fight a little bit in the emails.
and on the phone, and through instant messages.
What did you mean when you told him that you couldn't find the tool to do what you needed to do?
What page number?
Well, let me find it. Okay. It'd be 1023, page 86. And just to refresh your memory, this is the email about the fairy tale. You'd start out with once upon a time.
Well, let me just place an objection. I believe there's about 10 emails that use the term fairy tale.
I said page 86.
All right.
This is the one where you use a hypothetical with some other woman, and you have the quote in there. This woman has thought for a long time how she could get out of this mess. Death seems to be her answer. And you also go on to say, it isn't that any of these women have ever been involved, but they can be made to look guilty if need be. Fear is what it is about. Consequences is what they pay. Although his current wife's plan seems to be the only way out, she is thinking about what her lover has said. She wishes he knew everything. But from years of knowing, seeing, hearing what happens when you talk, she keeps her mouth shut tight. But she still thinks only her way will work. She is scared for herself and children. Then skipping down, knowing that there is a way out there so she can end this, kills her, that she can't find the tool to let it happen. Reading between the lines is important here. She knows what she needs and doesn't know how to get it. She knows she needs help getting what she wants, but it is hard to trust when she has seen so much of the consequences. What are you conveying to Jerry with that letter?
I believe the beginning states that it's a fairy tale.
Okay.
Jerry and I had a lot of fantasy play online. I did write the email.
Okay. Let me repeat the question. What are you trying to convey to Jerry through that letter, in your own words?
Exactly what the letter said. It was a story.
Okay, tell me what it means, what he should read between the lines.
I really don't understand how to answer that. It's a story. I wrote a story.
You wrote a story, and at the end you
Let her
said,
finish. Objection,
Go ahead.
Your Honor.
I wrote a story. As far as the tool to leave, I just wrote a story. I don't know I don't know how to answer that.
Well, maybe this will help you out. This is what I want you to explain to the jury.
Okay.
The moral of the story is what you make it. Reading between the lines is important here. She knows what she needs and doesn't know how to get it. Help us read between the lines.
Basically, she needed to leave that person. And she didn't know how she was going to leave that person.
Okay.
That's what
Why
it
did you
sounds
put
like.
death seems to be her answer?
You'll have to read that paragraph.
You want the whole paragraph? This woman has thought for a long time how she could get out of this mess. Death seems to be her answer. Of natural causes would help, but knowing things he is into, other things could happen without question. Yet someone may question her, but she will be the emotional basket case in the end. Everyone thinks she is so in love with him that they would think it was because of other, more dangerous things. Soon people would forget, and she would have her life back, along with 2 other women who have been made to stay close to be watched. Does that help you read between the lines?
It sounds like to me one of the other fairy tales that Jerry and I shared. He wrote fairy tales, I wrote fairy tales.
Okay, now I know you're into sexual things. Are you also into death things? Is that another area you're into?
Not really, no.
So you say you slept with him in December?
No, he stayed one night at my house.
You corresponded with him by email between the date of the murder and the date of his death, didn't you?
Jerry?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
And you corresponded with him by instant message, correct?
Probably a week after Bruce died, maybe longer.
Now, you also said you talked to him about the details, or you told him about the murder, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you said that he learned about the murder through the obituary?
He learned about it through a Flint Journal article.
Okay. What was the Flint Journal article that happened right after his death?
I do not have any idea. I just know he told me he looked it up online.
How much detail did you go into when you described what happened to your late husband?
I told him everything.
Okay, did you tell him about the timing of your phone calls, where you ordered the food from, that kind of thing?
Jerry and I, do you want a yes or no?
No, go ahead.
We talked online and on the phone several times. Basically, he knew about what time I called Bruce every day.
Okay. So that's how he kind of faked the phone call part of the instant message?
I do not know.
Okay. And now at the beginning of that instant message, talks about sending some photographs. Did you send him photographs?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now the jury's seen some photographs. Are you saying you didn't send Jerry any photographs?
Not on that day, no.
Okay. Did you send him photographs on the 7th?
No, I did not.
People's Exhibit number 12. Is that you?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And this was found on a disc, correct?
That's what they tell me. They were found on a
Okay.
desk.
Are these pictures of your body?
I would have to see them.
Okay, go ahead. Take a look.
That looks like my body.
Okay. Why don't you explain where those photographs came from?
I've sent Jerry various photographs of myself through our entire relationship.
Why would you send him those?
I sent him naked photographs of me. There was no marks on me.
Okay, let me repeat the question. Why would you send him those?
I sent him various photographs
Okay,
of me
I'm-
with no clothes on.
I understand that. We'll get to the no clothes later. What about those? Why did you send him photographs like that?
Maybe he asked to see me that night. I don't know. I wouldn't know unless I knew when the photographs were sent.
Was that the way your body was sometime in 1999?
Without the bruises. I didn't have those marks all over me.
How did the bruises get on those
I do not have an idea.
photographs?
I
You don't
do
know how
not
they got
know.
on the disc
I do not know.
in his briefcase?
I do not know.
Why would you send, okay, let's assume there weren't any bruises on there. Why would you send somebody a photograph just of different parts of your body like that? I mean, you obviously have sent full shots and naked. Why would you do that without bruises?
I believe through the emails there's several photographs of me without clothes on. Some with my head, some without my head.
I'm talking about those particular photographs. I'm not talking about the pregnancy shots. That. Why would you send little pieces of your body?
I have a camera on my computer. It gives you 2 seconds to get in the right position. Maybe I had it taken photos every 2 seconds. I don't know.
Now, that was the same camera you used to make that film for Jerry's Eyes Only?
No, it is not.
Okay. You had a different camera?
I had a video camcord that I used for that.
So, like, you took this picture of your torso here just because you just had a couple seconds.
I believe those look like pregnancy pictures. There was various pregnancy pictures sent to him with just my abdomen showing.
That's a pregnancy picture?
It could be.
That's a pregnancy picture.
It could be.
What part of pregnancy is that about?
If you knew Jerry and I's relationship, he would send pictures of me just from his waist down, and I sent him pictures.
Let's talk about some of the pregnancy photographs. You admitted you're never pregnant, right?
Exactly.
And you admit that you had your tubes tied in 1995 and couldn't even get pregnant, correct?
Yes, I do.
So the jury's going to get this notebook, and they're going to see numerous photographs of you with your stomach out. Can you tell us how you made those photographs?
I have a camera on my computer. Some of them are just my torso. Some of them have my face. I would have it on 3 second to where it would take pictures while I was sitting in a chair.
Okay. Now, what do you just thrust your stomach out or something? And
Yeah, and some of them, yes.
Okay. And what about others?
As in,
Well, I'll show you.
some of them I just had my stomach pushed out with my hand on my stomach.
Okay, like page 100. Can you see that up there?
That's a picture of just my torso.
Okay, what are you doing? You're just putting your stomach out like this?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Page 117. And this is on October 27th. What are you doing?
Pushing my stomach out.
Page 136. 6 on October 28th, the following day. What are you doing there?
Sitting in a chair, pushing my stomach out.
Page 155 on October 31st. What are you doing there?
I can't tell what that is. Looks like it's just a picture of my stomach and my arm pushing my stomach out.
There's one of you in a negligee. Are you pushing your stomach out in that one too?
I would have to see the picture.
Okay. Can't find that photograph right now. What about these EPT tests that you photographed and sent to them?
Is that a question?
What do you want to know about them?
Well, how did you do that?
My girlfriend Jennifer just found out she was pregnant, and she took the pregnancy test at my house.
Okay. That was on October 20th, when you're supposed to be breaking up with him?
I don't know the exact date.
Okay. Now, you admit sending this photograph also, which is page 78. And at the top of this photograph, which I'll show you in just a second, it says, "This woman is as tall as I am." And that was on October 21st. Does that look familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
And do you admit sending that photograph to him?
Yes, I do.
Any particular reason you needed to know his dimensions?
He asked. Maybe. I don't know.
So that he would know who he was killing when he came out here?
Jerry Cassidy did not kill Bruce Miller.
So are you saying this entire instant message is fake?
Yes, I am.
So when they talk about the discs and the pictures on your back and legs and whatnot, and the bruises, you never had that conversation?
No, I did not.
You never told him the fastest way to the yard?
I gave Jerry Cassidy directions to the yard
Okay.
when he drove up here on November 3rd.
You never used the local terminology to point, though, in those directions?
Yes,
you?
I did.
No. What about, what about that rest area on I-75? Are you familiar with that rest area?
No, I'm not.
How long have you lived up there?
I lived in Millington before I moved to Mount Morris. I lived in Mount Morris 2 years, maybe.
Okay, so you don't know about that rest area between Mount Morris and Birch Run, that's just,
I don't pay attention.
Where were
to
you
rest
raised?
areas. Off of Genesee Road, Kersley School District, and then out in Fostoria.
where's Fostoria?
Fostoria is out by Millington.
So you've lived in this area all your life, correct?
Correct.
Now, why did you videotape fax machines and whatnot in your My Family 1999 video?
I videotaped several things in that video.
Okay. Why did you videotape the fax machines in that video?
I believe my comment was, here's the fax machine that I'm going to sit on for you. Around in there.
So if that comment was not on there,
It's to that point. I don't know exactly, but it's very close to that.
but if the jury can't hear that comment on there about I'm going to sit on that fax machine.
It's on there.
Why do you say to Jerry on that video, you sure you can handle all this?
We were talking about kids at that point, and when my kids were on, I asked him if he was sure he could handle these kids.
Okay. Did you also say, now you've seen the messy kids' room, sure you can live with this?
I believe I did.
And don't you think these dolls will look good in your room?
I believe I did. I believe I was talking to Jimmy at that point.
Okay, and what are you going to do with a woman like me? I like to get dirty.
Yes, I did.
And when are you telling this jury that you sent this tape out to him?
In the fall, I sent early fall, late summer. I can't be exact on the dates. Probably, I don't know, August maybe?
Now you say that you couldn't break off with Jerry. Why?
At first, it was just nice that he would send the emails. Later, when I tried breaking off with him, he would mention my videos or my pictures.
And you're afraid he's going to send them to who?
I was afraid he was going to send the sex video at that time to Bruce, but basically every time I tried to break up with Jerry, he said something, I don't know, that just made me want to stay with him.
But you
Made me
just-
want to keep talking to him.
But you told this jury that Bruce was kind of into this email thing with Jerry.
In the beginning, he was.
So why would he be shocked? Why would that?
Because once I had met Jerry, I no longer talked with Jerry in front of Bruce online.
So are you telling this jury that Jerry Cassidy thought that Bruce didn't know about you two?
That Bruce didn't know about?
Right. That he was.
He did not
He was
know
going to
me physically.
blackmail you. That if you leave me, I'm going to tell Bruce that we've been having an affair. Is that what you're saying?
No, the videos he used more against me after Bruce died. During the time
When?
that Bruce was alive, we talked back and forth in emails, and I tried various times to break up with Jerry.
Well, now, just a minute ago, these videotapes were going to be used to blackmail you with your husband. Now you're telling this jury that, no,
No,
maybe...
Bruce didn't know about the videotape. Bruce did not know about the videotape, and Jerry did say he was going to send Bruce the tape.
Okay, I want you to clarify for this jury who you were afraid that videotape was going to go to.
Before or after Bruce's death?
Either one.
Wow. Do you want them both?
Just tell them the truth. Tell them everything.
You're going to have to clarify what you want. Do you want me to tell you who I was afraid before or who I was afraid after?
Oh.
Before the video, he said that he was going to let Bruce see it.
Okay.
After, he asked me what Bruce's family would think of that video.
So that kept you in this relationship.
No, that's not all that kept me in the relationship.
And in fact, in the emails, wouldn't you agree that you talk about how Bruce would beat you more because of your relationship with Jerry? That you thought it was only emotional abuse?
We talked about that, yes.
Okay. So as far as Jerry knew, Bruce knew all about the two of you.
In some of the emails, yes.
Okay, now, let's talk about after Bruce died. There's been some talk about the finances and whatnot. Did you know what you were going to inherit from Bruce?
No, I did not.
Now, there was a debt that was owing to Don Gillette for having bought the B&D auto, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
How much was that debt?
I believe it was about $16,000.
And how much of that did you pay to Don Gillette?
We paid Don off. Ruth Miller wrote a check, and I wrote the balance of the check.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. How much money did you give Don Gillette to pay off that $16,000 debt?
Well, I paid several payments before we paid him off. I'm not sure on the exact amount of the check that I wrote. I wrote him a check.
Okay, why don't you, would it be about $3,000?
I don't know. I would have to see the check. I wrote a check.
Why don't you tell the jury how much Ruth Miller paid to get rid of that debt for you?
I believe she wrote a check for $10,000.
To Don Gillette.
I don't know if she wrote it to Don Gillette or wrote it to me, but it got to Don Gillette.
Okay. And that is not to be confused with the $10,000 that she gave you for a car, correct?
Correct.
And in fact, that car you're talking about, the 1992 salvage car that's in the My Family video,
1996.
1996, that was given to Don Gillette also in payment?
No, it was
You never
not.
gave it to him?
No. I assumed that if he got that email from Bruce, that he would stop talking with me.
What other monies did you receive after Bruce's death?
He had a banking account from Dort Federal that he had like maybe $11,000 in it, and then there was a $2,000 life insurance that automatically was deposited at the time of death. So it was about $13,000. There was a banking account at National City Bank for about $2,800. Ruth Miller was a beneficiary on his personal savings plan. She sent in the death certificate and called them. They sent me back a letter and her a letter denying her and telling me I was beneficiary on that PSP plan. After cashing that, it was right about $48,000 maybe. I'm not real exact, but it was about $48,000. I started the sale of the business. I received $52,500. At the time of the sale, just in the past few months have finished the sale of that, which I received another $52,500. It ended up being $105,000 for the business. I had 2 different stocks that was almost $5,000 or slightly over. It was right in that area of $5,000. Ruth Miller gave me a check for $10,000. As far as I can remember, that's it. There could be more.
What about Ruth Miller paying for some home improvements at your place?
She helped me with the roof of our house.
Okay. And you did some other home improvements?
Yes, I did.
Like?
Put carpet in the house. Bruce's brother came over. I gave him money various times to buy flooring for the house. The floor was rotted in the house from the roof leaking. I gave him money to replace the ceilings in the house. He was over there quite a bit working on the house with me.
Okay. Now we've heard about a Jeff Foster. When did you start dating him?
I knew Jeff Foster before Bruce passed away. He was our swan man. He came to the business. After Bruce passed away, he waited 2 weeks, and I called Schwan and asked them to send a Schwan man to my house. He told me how sorry he was that day. His girlfriend was breaking up with him. We ended up meeting at Clio Bowling Alley. I seen him a few days later, maybe, at Clio Bowling Alley. His girlfriend had been breaking up with him, and we sat and talked.
Okay. When did it get physical?
Oh, December.
And when did he move in?
He didn't actually officially move in until January. I'm not, between December, the end of December and January.
When did he start spending overnights there?
On and off. He stayed overnight. He didn't stay continually in December.
Now, a few weeks after your husband's death, was there an incident at the Otisville Hotel where you were doing dirty dancing with him, where they told you to cut it out?
Nobody ever told me to cut it out.
Okay. Were you at the Otisville Hotel with Jeff Foster?
Yes, I was.
And was this just a few weeks after your husband's death?
I don't know what date it was, but
Okay.
we did go out there one time.
And you said that you talked to Jeff Foster's girlfriend or wife? Who is it? Did you ever talk to his girlfriend or wife?
Jeff Foster's?
Yes.
I talked to his ex-wife.
Okay. The one he had just ended a relationship with?
No, that was his girlfriend.
Okay. So you're saying you never emailed his girlfriend?
I emailed her one time.
Okay. What was the purpose of emailing her?
She had come up to me in the bar and made a statement to me. I can't even remember what it was, but she was angry, and she was with another male. And I believe, if that's the email you're talking about, I only emailed her one time.
Okay. You also talked to, we said when you got together with Bruce that you're out in Vegas with him and you get put on the phone with his girlfriend?
No, I answered the phone.
Okay. So you talked to her too, right?
She just asked for Bruce, and I handed her the phone. Or handed him the phone.
And you talked to Jerry's ex-wife, Barb?
Yes.
Okay. And when you first started going out with Bruce, you lied to Terry Myers about where you were spending your nights?
Yes, I did.
And you lied to Gloria Taylor
About?
pretty much everything. Are you a nurse?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Did you lie to her about who you were?
I don't ever remember talking to Gloria Taylor. She could have been at one of the blackjack tables listening to our conversations. Jerry could have told her stuff. I don't know.
Did you lie to Carol Slaughter?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you heard her testimony in court. Was there anything in there that you take issue with?
I heard her testimony. I don't remember everything she said.
Anything come to mind about what she said that was not truthful?
No.
What about Laura Ewald? Did she say anything untruthful?
Not that comes to mind, no.
Okay, so she said she heard you call him Big Brutus to check on the pizza, right? or to check on the fish. Stood right next to you when you called Big Brutus. Did you remember that testimony?
Yes.
To see whether or not Bruce had been by there yet?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us what phone you used to call the order in.
I had 3 phones in my house. I don't know.
Okay.
I had 2 cordless phones. I don't know.
They're all the 6860161, right?
Yes, they are.
Now, you said Bruce gave you a ring when you went out to Vegas the first time, correct?
Correct.
Was that the $100,000 ring that you were talking about, that you told Jerry about?
No, I believe those were the $14 rings that I told Jerry was $100,000 rings.
So you're telling this jury that's the first time you ever met Jerry was in July, the mid-July, when you went out there with Laura Ewald.
Yes, I met him then.
Okay, but all you did was talk.
Yes, we talked.
Okay, and you didn't sleep with them until August.
I had sex with him in August.
Okay. Why didn't you sleep with them the first time?
I was with my girlfriend out west.
Judge Quinn, sidebar.
All right.
Be seated. Thank you, everyone. Go ahead.
Showing you people's proposed exhibit number 72, is that you?
Yes, it is.
And now, is that how you were dressed that first time you went out to Vegas with the fake rings and the evening gown that you were talking about?
I took that outfit every time I went out there.
Okay. And did you mail this picture to Jerry?
I believe I did.
Okay. And is that your writing on the back?
Yes, it is.
So is that a fair and accurate reflection of how you looked the first time you went out there?
Yes, it is.
Judge, I'd move to admit people's proposed exhibit number 72.
Can I just take a look at that again?
Sure.
It's a color photo for the record. 3.5 by 5.
If I could water,
You may.
thank you. I'm looking at this picture, looks to be like a wig off here to the left, or a hair extension?
Yes.
Is that what you had previously testified to?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so although your hair is shorter here,
I didn't have it on yet.
okay. So when you told us earlier your hair was longer, that was connected to your hair?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Right, it's admitted.
Why don't you read to the jury what you wrote on the back?
July 17th, 1999. First time we made love. Sharee.
And if I could, Judge. You said at the end of August that you faked a pregnancy because the relationship was dying down. What did you mean by that?
It wasn't as intense.
So was that to get it heated up again?
Yes, it was.
You also mentioned something about some vet pills that you had seen in connection with that when you were out in Reno. What did that have to do with it?
Just that Jerry was taking various pills. I had seen a bunch of pill bottles, and when I seen that, I just thought that was kind of odd.
Okay. Now there's some mention in the emails about a couple of dogs.
Yes.
He had dogs, correct?
At that time, they were staying at a friend's house. They weren't in the apartment when I was out there.
Okay, but he had a couple dogs, right?
Yes, he did.
Was one of their names Booger?
Yes, he did.
What was the name of the other dog?
I don't remember.
In fact, you sent him emails saying I can picture you on your bed with the dog on either side, correct?
I would have to see the email, but it's probably correct.
You also said that you told Jerry in October when you were in Nevada that you're pregnant again. Now, that was to make him feel happy?
He had sent me an email telling me he was going to kill himself. And then when I went out there, his family thought he was suicidal, and they were trying to get him to go to Kansas City. And when I told him that, he agreed to go to get help.
Now, did you think this was helping his mental health to keep on telling him that you're having his babies and that they're dying? Did you think that was helping?
I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist.
You didn't care, did you?
I cared about Jerry.
Now, when you mentioned those tapes, you also mentioned the briefcase, correct?
Correct.
So your understanding was that Jerry had this briefcase with these tapes that would show you to be a loose woman having an affair and making a masturbation tape. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you understand that they found a briefcase out in Missouri, correct?
Yes,
And
correct.
you've seen all the evidence from that briefcase. You've read the reports and you've heard the testimony and everything, correct?
Correct.
Now, you also heard the testimony too that those tapes were in the garbage when they found them out there. And they weren't in the briefcase. Did that surprise you?
That surprised me, yes.
You also heard about 3 letters that were on the outside of the briefcase. One to his mom and dad, which was a suicide note that you saw, correct?
I saw the suicide note, correct.
There was also a note to his youngest son, Jimmy. You remember hearing about that, correct?
I heard about that, correct.
Okay. And then there was a letter also on the outside to John O'Connor. Do you remember that?
No, I do not.
You don't remember that?
That's a no.
Would it surprise you if that letter identified you as a person for John O'Connor to contact should he turn up dead or in jail and he needs help with his legal expenses and it's dated November 7th?
I
Would
know.
that surprise you?
I know nothing about that letter.
Okay. Would you like to take a look at it? Did you read that entire letter?
Yes, I did.
And is the information contained in that letter information that you conveyed to Jerry?
I have never seen that letter before.
Okay. Let me talk about, does it refer to a gang rape?
Well, Judge, let me just place an objection. She hasn't seen it.
She
it's not
still
in
didn't
evidence.
answer the question. I think she ought to be able to answer the first question. Do you want an answer to the question?
Yes, I want an answer.
Well, then repeat it again to her.
Did you convey to Jerry that you had been gang raped?
I believe in the emails. I may have.
Okay. Did you convey to Jerry that Bruce was involved in organized crime?
Yes, I did.
That he was counterfeiting money, money laundering, and doing drugs?
I don't remember anything about drugs, but I may have. But
Okay.
the counterfeiting money, yes.
Did you
No,
convey
I'm
to
not
him?
sure we're speaking loud enough for the court reporter now, so you need to speak up louder.
Did you convey to him that Bruce was very abusive to you, both physically and mentally?
Yes, I did.
And that Bruce killed your infant child by beating you?
Yes.
Okay. That he had previously caused, Bruce had previously caused you to miscarry a child at 7 months by the name of Marissa Ann Stacy Miller?
I do not remember that.
Okay. You don't remember whether or not you named the child that got killed the first time around?
I don't remember that.
Okay. You're not saying that you didn't have that conversation, you're saying you don't
I'm
remember.
saying I don't remember saying that.
Did you tell him that there were medical records under false names at different hospitals in Flint?
I don't remember saying that.
Okay. Did you tell him that you had been beaten, made to do drug deals, raped, beaten, and mentally tortured?
I believe I said some of that.
Did you tell him that you had been kidnapped by a person named Jason?
I don't remember telling him that.
Okay. And that first Bruce beat and raped you and then had this Jason kidnap you and you were taken at gunpoint to a remote cabin. Do you remember that?
I may have said that.
Okay. And where you were beaten and raped again. And that's what killed the babies the second time around?
I may have said that. Jerry,
Well, do you remember how you told him those second set of babies died?
he thought I was pregnant up until he died.
Now, when the police talked to you, you identified some suspects for them, didn't you? John Hutchinson.
Which time?
You were interviewed 4 times? Any one of the 4 times?
They had me list people that owed Bruce money or that could have been angry at him.
Okay.
They brought up to me the Gain investigation because I wasn't thinking about that. Detective Petrovka brought that up to me. And I confirmed it for him that yes, they had been to the yard.
Okay. Did you also bring up the fact that some suspicious characters had been in the business that day and looking at your wedding ring and how you had to fake call the police to get them to leave and they left in a rusty van? Do you remember telling the police that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you remember telling the police that on the 4th interview that you didn't really know who Jerry was and then you barely knew him?
Yes, I did. I had been questioned for hours. I was on my menstrual cycle. I was bleeding all over myself, asking to go to the bathroom. I was scared. I thought maybe Jerry had sent videotapes, my tape. I didn't know, and I was scared. And I did tell Detective Campo I did not know Jerry Cassidy.
Okay. Now that interview was taped, correct?
Yes, it was.
Now at what point during that tape, if we have a transcript of that, maybe you could point for me where you told them that you're bleeding all over yourself and asking to go to the bathroom.
Detective
Let me
Camp.
get that for you.
Do you want me to answer that?
No, I want you to look at this.
Okay.
interview. Tell me where you interrupted him.
The whole interview was not taped.
I got 31 pages here, and defense counsel has a copy of it. Show me in there where it says you were bleeding. Do you know if it was at the beginning, middle, or end of the interview?
I told Detective Campo in the police car when he was bringing me that I needed to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
And I told him at the police station that I needed to go to the bathroom, that I had started my menstrual cycle. He did not tape the whole interview. Detective Campo started asking me questions from the second he picked me up
So that's why you denied knowing Jerry.
because he started asking me questions. I denied.
I want the jury to know why you denied even knowing the guy.
I was scared.
Okay. What about when he said that he had some emails and he started reading them to you?
He didn't read emails. He read an instant message to me
Oh, okay.
that I know of.
What about at that point?
I had never heard of that instant message before.
Now, on the night of the murder, in fact, let me just go back to the Compost interview. You denied even speaking to Jerry in the past 5 or 6 months using the email, didn't you?
I would have to see it.
It's page 22.
I believed I denied ever knowing Jerry Cassidy. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Now, when he asked you about the emails that you had with Jerry, did you tell him that you didn't save them because you didn't want to plug up your hard drive?
I could have said that.
Okay, would it refresh your memory if you took a look at it on page 23?
Sure. That's what it said I said.
Did you say that?
I didn't save any emails.
You didn't save any of the emails from Jerry?
No, from anybody.
Okay, do you remember telling the police about your charge card when they were talking about getting a hotel? Charging a hotel to your charge card?
I don't remember.
Okay, that's page 26.
It looks like he didn't let me finish my answer. Would
Okay.
you like me to finish it?
Sure, why don't you tell us what you said about your charge cards?
Bruce's charge cards were in his wallet and they were stolen. He asked about the night of the murder, and I did not charge a hotel room the night of the murder.
What were all those calls to the Hampton Inn?
When Jerry was in town, I had to work, and I would call him and talk to him while I was at work and at home.
Also on the day of the murder, how often do you have Harold come over to pick up toys at your house?
He had been supposed to come pick the toys up for several days, and I told him, you don't come and get them, they're going to the garbage. They had been sitting on the front porch.
And whose toys were they?
They were Bobby, Amanda's, and Junior's, and I had given Harold several of their clothes, their shoes, and other various items.
Okay. And I think you heard testimony from Laura Ewald that you were getting organized before Christmas and getting rid of all your old toys so that you could buy new toys. Is that
Yes, I
correct?
was.
And my question is, how often do you do that?
Every year I get ready for Christmas.
By giving away toys? You don't pass them down to the kids or anything?
No, I don't.
You also So that you unplugged your phones on the day of the murder? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I unplugged the phones every single morning when I left for B&D. That Bruce worked third shift the night before. I unplugged the phones so that the phone didn't wake him up and he could sleep.
And when do you unplug the phone? From what time to what time?
Before I leave and until I come home. The phones will still ring, but you won't hear them.
So are you saying you did this on the day of the murder?
I generally do it every day, that he worked third shift the night before.
Let's talk about your last conversation that you had with Bruce. You said you looked at the caller ID. It was 6:19 or 6:20, correct?
I looked at the microwave, at the clock.
Okay. And tell the jury what occurred on that last phone call with your husband.
He asked me what time dinner would be ready. I looked at the clock, and that's how I knew what time it was. He had 10 minutes left to go pick up dinner, which was just a couple minutes down the road. While I was on the phone with him, he said, "Oh, Harold must have forgot something." Then he said, "No, I have a customer." And that was towards the end of our conversation. And he said, I'll see you later. I love you, bye.
Now, you heard Laura Ewald testify, correct?
Yes, I did.
And she said that he said something about it being a truck pulling up. Do you remember that?
I remember Laura saying that, yes.
Okay.
I
I remember telling Laura that.
Because Harold drove a truck, that's why I said something about the truck.
Okay. But he got to look at the guy and he said, no, that's not Harold.
I
It's
think
a customer.
I don't know. I don't know. He just said it wasn't Harold, it was a customer.
Okay. Now, you heard the emails being read in court the other day, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Right. And there was one email that was read about Bobby going to live with his dad. Did you hear that one?
Yes, I did.
And tell the jury when Bobby went to go live with his dad.
I gave his dad temporary custody after Bruce passed away. I gave him temporary custody. Bobby was supposed to come back and live with me in June.
So that was after Bruce died.
That was after Bruce passed away.
Okay. Now, you also heard Don Coakley from AOL testify about your screen names and when you were online late on November 7th into the early morning hours of November 8th, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you have any dispute with the fact that you were online during that time period?
No, I do not.
Do you remember who you were online with?
I was probably online with a few people. I don't know.
Now, when you went out to Reno, did you look at expensive homes with Jerry?
Which trip?
Any of the trips?
One time I did, yes.
Okay. And what price range did you look at when you went out there?
Oh, anywhere from 200,000 to on up. I mean, they were very expensive homes.
Do you remember when you would have done that?
I can't be exact. I know it was one of my trips out there. I can't be exact.
Okay, you
I
went
don't
out there
know.
July, August. Did you go out there September?
July, August,
October you went out there?
and October. July, August, and October.
You think, You
I
said you
don't
think it
know
was in
which
October?
trip. I don't know what trip it was, but I do remember going and looking at houses with him.
Okay, with a man by the name of Jude Crane.
I believe that's who it was.
And who did you represent would be buying this home?
I was.
For what reason? I thought you were trying to break off.
It would depend on which month that I was out there. If it was in August, we weren't trying to break up at that time that I was out there.
Judge, if I could take just a minute.
You may.
Did you talk about taking a trip with Jerry after the murder in your emails?
I may have.
I don't have anything else.
No question.
May step down.
Defense rep, Chair.
All right. Ms. Mabry, do you want to have a very short recess to determine? Members of the jury, I'll just ask you to step in the jury room just for a couple minutes here, if you will, please. All right, be seated briefly, everybody. Mr. Nicola, you've rested, so Ms. Mabry, do you believe there's anything else now in the way of evidence in this matter?
No, Judge, we don't think it's necessary to present any rebuttal testimony.
All right, now, members of the jury, so what we're going to do today is have a little bit earlier lunch, and we'll try to make those arrangements right now. And again, I'll ask you not to talk about the case, and after lunch today at approximately 2, we'll start our final arguments in the matter. So if everyone will rise, please. Be seated. Thank you. Record will show the jury has departed from the room. At this time, we will confer regarding the instructions and a verdict form that will need to be prepared for the jury in the matter. And if you each have the requested instructions from the other, probably if you'll just have them in front of you.
Judge, I have a rough draft of another verdict form in your court that could probably be doctored up. And
Yeah, we can do that.
if you want,
Let's
we
go
can
over the
court.
instructions first, and then we'll go on the form in a minute. If you're, as soon as you have your papers out, just say yes, and then we'll do it. I like to just start with the numbers and go through in that regard. So, starting then, if you're ready, Ms. Mabry, yes?
Yes, I'm ready.
3-1, 3-2, 2.7, 3.5, 3.6, 4.1, 4.3, 4.5, 4.6.
Judge, I'm a little confused.
I don't,
on
that
the
was
judicial
requested. I was going to say, that was one, Mr. Nicola. Do you think there's
Yeah, I
any
put it on
reason?
Judge Pat. That was
I think I. While we're waiting briefly, just a moment, counsel indicated there was one more thing for the record, Mr. Nicola.
Yes, Judge, I just wanted to evidence just place on the record the objection that I placed. We had on it with Exhibit 172, which was a photograph that was not provided to me prior to this trial. was never noted that it was going to be intended for trial. And as a result of that, I had objected. We had gone into the two chambers or sidebar to discuss it. The court had indicated that it was going to allow it in over my objection, and that we would be able to place it on the record. So I'm placing that objection now. Obviously, the court has allowed it to the jury, and they've seen the photograph.
Correct. Ms. Mabry?
Judge, I know I've made this record before. We met on more than one occasion with Mr. Nicola and went over all the evidence. This evidence was introduced to rebut something that I could not have foreseen the defendant would have said, which is that she didn't have sexual relations with Jerry Cassidy until August, when in fact in her own handwriting on the back of a photograph of herself, it says the first time we made love. So there's no way I could have predicted that. It was available to Mr. Nicola, and it was available on more than one occasion. Certainly there was a volume of evidence for him to look at, and I can certainly understand where he didn't remember seeing that, but it was definitely provided to him. An appropriate impeachment.
Just in response, I filed a mandatory disclosure request in this particular case, and that item was not evidence of something that was going to be introduced at trial. That's clearly set forth in the record.
I have to put down everything I'm using as impeachment?
All right, the court indicated I thought it was appropriate to have some flexibility if there was an issue that came up, and it was, I believe, in a pack of materials. She says it was, and you want to start having an argument, I can have you both under oath, and you'll say it was, and you'll say it wasn't, I guess. So in any event, I don't know how the prosecutor can foresee every bit of the defendant's testimony so that they would know everything that might be used for impeachment. In any event, I'm satisfied it was with the pack of materials that was provided. We had ample time during the long proceedings that we've been involved in through this litigation to discuss and review every item of evidence. And we even went into special sessions and special meetings, not only on Saturday, but a couple other times ahead of time to go over evidentiary issues. So we are ready, I believe, now for final arguments. Is that correct?
Correct.
Defense ready? Then I'll get the jury upstairs.
Yes,
All right, we'll get them up right now. Thank you.